Egyptian Chariots are some of the most powerful skirmishers available to you in Total War Pharaoh, but how best to utilize these rolling death machines? When taking to the field, it is important to note that almost all of your Egyptian Chariots are going to be very lightly armored, even into the medium tier, so you're going to want to keep them out of prolonged melee and away from enemy missiles if you want your Chariots to keep rolling and your lads to get away unscathed. However, your Chariots tend to be the fastest, especially on sand, so enemy Chariots will have the worst time trying to catch your units. And so we'll go ahead and show that off here with an invading force of Canaanite Chariots of the armored variety. They're actually a whole tier above our Archer Chariots here, but let's see how this plays out. You're going to want to also make sure to switch your archers over into direct fire, since it has 30% lethality instead of the normal 10%. So you just kind of keep your Chariots moving on around, skirt around the enemy's rollers that are going to be trying to send your way. You can keep them on arc fire at the beginning. They'll start firing shots on into the enemy Chariots. The enemy is going to try to pursue here, even with their general. We've only got kind of one unit to show off here. And we'll see in a moment, this is even more terrifying with the more elite Chariots, or even with the Javelin Chariots you have. We're going to switch it over into direct fire now. It does lower their range, but look at the damage. These guys are taking all of the damage, and each shot has a 30% chance just to outright kill the Chariot they're hitting. They lose their arc fire and a good deal of their range, but there is no chance the enemy's going to catch them. You just keep moving on away. With the sand, they are losing a lot of their speed, so they're at 83 speed as opposed to 109 that your lads have. So even if you kind of sit for a moment and lose track, they have no chance of catching. You just zoom on away. Canaanite Chariots dropping quite quickly now. This is how you're really going to use your Egyptian Chariots to eliminate enemy even archers, or horse archers that is, or other cavalry as well as chariots. This works even better against the Hittite heavy chariots, which will suffer even more in the sand, as we'll show off here in a little bit. Now they're down to 16 chariots, and we're still at 36. Those arrows are still flying. So let's take it about 3 minutes on into this, 2-3 minutes in, and it is down to 14 chariots. And you can just keep rolling on around, and the closer they get, the more likely they are to get hit and completely slain in one shot. They will kind of run into each other a little bit. The pathing for chariots is still a little bit suspect, as we get a charge there that does a little bit of damage. But that's the end for the Hittites. Down to 9, and they're fleeing for the hills. Now let's show off how the Javelin boys fare. Alright, we're back and rolling, this time with the light Javelin Chariots for Talzaret. Only Talzaret's faction actually has access to the Javelin Chariots, and it's probably a good thing, because these guys are horrifyingly effective. Go ahead and take down the UI and pull up just the spacebar overlays there. And watch how fast these Canaanite Chariots go away. They've already taken out 2 of their models. Javelin Chariots have a total of 35% or 45% lethality. We can go and take a look in just a moment. I'll put it up on the screen here in editing. But they're so much faster. They have a lot less range. But it's already down. We'll go ahead and kick off of this so we can actually see what the numbers are at. 18 chariots, and we are only a couple seconds into this little fight here. They're so much faster, and those javelins are so dangerous. 15 chariots left. Another one falls. Talzaret's faction, you want to really utilize your skirmish chariots to the fullest. Just look at that. About a third of the time, these Canaanite armored chariots are down to 9 models, and they are routing. There's a few more, and they'll be broken. Pretty insanely good work there. Then we'll kind of cut in and show off just how useful these Javelin Chariots are, even against the likes of a Bodyguard unit. You just keep them moving on around the outside as we are here, and you'll start to see those Bodyguard guys drop quickly. 2 of them fell in the first volley. Going to be weakening their armor as well. We have to kind of get around those shields, which we have a really good chance of with our speed there. Looks like 8 more Bodyguard fall. And with your Egyptian Chariots, you want to kind of keep them out of melee. Even against light units, you want to keep them circling around until they've run out of all of their ammunition. Only really charge in if the enemy unit is like a skirmisher or a missile unit, because those are the only ones that they can actually really do much damage to. They will charge through and into even light infantry, but they will get bogged down quite quickly, and then they take a lot of damage because of the great big models. Every single bit of this horse all the way back to the back counts as part of the chariot model. So just any part of that gets stabbed by any kind of blade, axe, whatever it is, those chariots will take that damage. So light chariots don't like melee. You want to keep them out and smashing into the flanks, using all their missiles, being very annoying. Look at this. This bodyguard's down to 51. So they were able to take down a Canaanite chariot and almost a whole bodyguard unit just with those javelins. Not even with any charges. At this point, we probably could charge this general and just scare him on off. There's no reason to move in and lose guys. We can keep the javelins flying. 41. Wavering from army losses, and there it is. He is gone. And from there, your light chariots are perfect at running down fleeing foes. Any of your enemy archers or anything like that might be a little bit faster than your frontline infantry, let your chariots run them down, and you will be gathering up all the post-battle captives. Alright, we're back on the dunes, and this time we have an invading force of Hittites to face off against our archer chariots. Let's see how well they fare as opposed to their slightly less armored Canaanite brethren. So for the Hittite chariots, they have a 75 armor and actually have a small shield. They'll be blocking 35% of missiles shot their way. We will try to be closing that gap as much as possible, switching them over into their direct fire mode for maximum lethality. Of course, always don't mind some shots on in to begin with. Their Hittite chariots, they are quite chunky. They have that shield to kind of ward off a little bit of that damage. You can flank on around as long as you keep an eye. The shield is always going to be on the left side there. If you can keep moving around to the other side, as we're not really doing such a good job here, but already 3 of the chariots have fallen to the high lethality of those shots. 2 more go down. Hittite chariots just have a really bad time against your skirmish chariots. They're rolling through the blood of their own fallen brethren so far. Down to 7, and it's only been a couple of seconds of actual skirmishing. 5 chariots remain. Just keep your archer chariots moving around their outside, and you break them in no time. Easy stuff. Let's show off how well the Javelin's doing. Spoiler alert, it's even better. Alright, now we test the Javelin's potential against the Hittite chariots. Let's see just how effective they're going to be. That high lethality, I think, is going to be very nice. As long as they're avoiding those shields and actually landing hits, the Hittite heavy chariots, as we can see, are slowed down to 65 speeds. So they're incredibly sluggish in the sand. So they pretty much have no chance. Hittite chariot already falling to the javelin chucks. Okay, to keep them a little bit closer with the javelins, they have quite a bit less range. You have a few less javelin chariots as well. Instead of 32, you have 28. Down to 13 chariots. That one got hit by several javelins at once. 2 more fall. As long as you're in the sands, and outside of the sands even, you should have no trouble staying well away from the heavy Hittite chariots. You get quite a bit of actual charge speed, though. That's something you'll have to keep in mind. But even if they close the gap, those javelins do start even more accuracy, so there's no real chance. Hittites are down to 7 chariots, and they are already running for the hills.
Victory is within your grasp.
Amazing stuff.
I'm getting out of here!
Just for all of your Egyptian chariots, keep in mind you want to keep them rolling, keep them utilizing all of their missiles, and then charge them in only once the enemy is either fleeing or you're hitting archers or the flanks of like light or even medium infantry. Don't have to go after heavy infantry with your light or medium chariots. They just will not enjoy that at all. They'll charge in and they'll take so much more damage than your enemy. It won't make it worth it. Alright, now we will show off the kind of medium melee chariots that only, I guess these guys are light too. I'll take that on back. So this is the unit that only Seti is going to have access to for the Egyptians. It's going to be the Egyptian melee chariots. You will have 36 of them. They have a pretty nice bonus versus large that we're not really able to show off here, and a pretty high lethality for your chariots. These even are fairly good to counter enemy armored Canaanite chariots, but these guys have quite a bit better charge and a little bit more armor, so you will want to try to use them in tandem with other melee infantry when possible. So we're going to let these two kind of keep their bodyguard busy, and we will show off how you kind of want to utilize your chariots in tandem with infantry. So let's go ahead and let these guys get going. You tend to want to use a spear unit with your chariots if you're fighting other chariots or cavalry and the like. But we'll just kind of show this off with swords here. You want to get your swords in position in a way that they are blocking the enemy, and then your chariots can kind of move around the outside and smash into the flanks. So we'll let these lads move in, start chucking their javelins. As soon as those chariots start charging at them, we'll have them go into a holding position. We're going to try to flank on around. They really want to go after Seti and the other group. We're going to try to get them focused on our swords here. Chariots don't get the best charge because I'm going to roll through our own lines, but you can see the damage already going on out. Those armored Canaanite chariots not enjoying that one bit. Give them the poke, lads. We're going to again try to keep Seti and the other warriors try to catch this other general. That way we're not losing too many of our own melee chariots, but we can kind of pursue these Canaanite chariots from there. They've lost so much health on a few models that are 36. Egyptian melee chariots should have no trouble tearing them down.
I am sick of this sand.
Yeah, I will continue to try to cycle charge your men. They're getting surrounded and stabbed pretty quickly here. Working your light chariots in tandem with other light infantry is the best way to maximize that potential, especially against when you're utilizing your melee chariots. Light melee chariots are very strong on the initial charge, but do take damage quite quickly since they have not very much armor. You can kind of see here they have only 50 armor to the 60 that the armored Canaanite chariots have, which I guess only 10 more, but it does come into play here.
Victory is within your grasp.
And like that, I kind of thought they were already wavering. There's still 16 of them. They tend to start running when there are around 9 or 10 left. We'll kind of try to cycle charge a bit, pull them on in. We've not lost a single chariot just yet, but we've lost a bit of health, so I think it's only a matter of time before one of the Egyptian chariots does fall. 14 armored Canaanites come on in. We've got a nice surround charge, which will get a few of these poor unfortunate souls. Down to 13. In a hot pursuit. It's not a speedy thing, but you can definitely win that duel as long as you are utilizing your infantry as well. In a straight-up fight, this is a much more, I'd say, 75-25 with the Canaanite chariots winning that fight. They have to just charge into one another and you can keep them there. So keep in mind, these armored Canaanite chariots are broken, and you have only lost one from that full combination there. Alright, next we'll show off how Seti's kind of melee chariots are to be used in a general fight, especially one that you might not be winning under normal circumstances. So the good old balance of power here has them having more troops than us, and it's very even, but it's slightly on their side. If you see, we've only got these lower Egyptian spear militia, which are going to have very low lethality. We've got a couple of javelins to chuck beforehand, but they've got pretty low melee stats, as opposed to the enemy Canaanite warriors here, which are quite a bit more scary. Have a fairly good lethality on their melee swings, so they, in a straight-up fight, should defeat our lower Egyptian spear militia, all things considered. They're a tier 2 unit, as opposed to a tier 1. You have Seti with a Kapesh, and then we've got our Egyptian melee chariots. We've also gone ahead and given our opponent a single unit of slings, just to kind of give you a typical, very low-tier Canaanite army. And let's go ahead and show this on off. So you really want to utilize your spear line as the anvil for your forces. Get as many of your enemies tied up as you can. That way your chariots can have complete leeway to smash into any kind of flanks or rear charges they want with no real issues. We're also going to try to take the best ground possible with our spears.
Your foe's hidden units stand revealed.
They're going to try to start launching some slings towards your chariots. They do tend to like to attempt to take them down, since they do know that's the most dangerous unit you have access to. Our armies are going to start getting closer to clash now, so the chariots can start rolling around the outside. We will take that initial sling fire. We have no real choice. You can see the javelins going on, and quite a few of our spear militia fall in that initial volley. And we do clash. Not one we're going to win at all, so we're going to send Seti around the side for a nice flank, while our chariots get rushing down after the enemy Canaanite slingers. You can actually see there they've used their active ability, which is the spear and the spokes, that all the Canaanites have. You can see how much that slowed these chariots down. We've lost 4 of them on the initial charge. Even with that, we do manage to catch the slings because they tried to throw another volley at us. So they did manage to maximize their damage, but that spear and the spokes ability is gone now, so they should run down these Canaanite slings quite quickly. You get 10 seconds on a charge bonus. So when you can, after that 10 seconds, if you can possibly count that on out, definitely keep your chariots or cavalry moving. That way you can maximize that damage to other areas, because you can see here, these light chariots don't like prolonged fighting at all. We've lost 1 from fighting just slings, and another one falls there, another one. 4 have fallen in combat with just some slings, so you definitely want to keep them rolling. Our spears are definitely losing each of their fights there, except for the ones that Seti's involved in, but our chariots have now engaged. Leave on in, you can start seeing the Canaanite warriors. Their leadership drops down to breaking in almost a single charge. We do need to get our chariots moving, though, because the slings are being a pain, so we're going to swing right back around. Just keep them moving. We're going to cleave down those slingers, scaring them off as well. And then we can turn them for an additional charge, probably over here with Seti's group, to make sure we are keeping them in as unfair fights as possible. They're going to swing on in, cleave into those boys there. You see the health dropping, the leadership dropping, and that group should be also broken, which should more or less chain route their lord here. We're going to hit them from both sides now. Chariots and warriors. Not quite ready to flee yet, but we can have our chariots kind of pull out, catch some of these other guys that might be trying to run, and then just come on back in for another charge. Keep those melee chariots moving, and you are going to field count racking up.
They're in for a beating!
That should have them broken. Oh, they're just barely hanging on. Good on ya. Elite, disciplined warriors of Canaan. The last of his warriors breaks, but that is going to be it for this guide video on utilizing your Egyptian light and medium chariots. Next, we're going to go be diving on over into Canaan to show off kind of their medium melee boys and how best to utilize them against the normal enemies you'll be facing there as the Canaanites. If you all enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like for Light God and a sub for the Sub Throne. Thank you all so much for stopping on by, and I will see you all in the next one.